All right, so you want to take a deep dive into Bitcoin. We're going to unpack all the excitement around it, try to cut through the hype, and look at the very real challenges it faces.
Sounds good.
From the materials you sent over, it seems like you're really interested in where Bitcoin might be headed. I mean, is it really the future of finance, or is it just another fad?
Yeah, it's a question everyone's asking these days, isn't it? What's fascinating to me is that Bitcoin is at this real crossroads. I mean, think about it. It started as this fringe idea, and now it's this global force, right?
Yeah.
Attracting investors like Tesla, and even countries like El Salvador are jumping in.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing.
It really is. But its future is, well, anything but certain.
Yeah, for sure. The stuff you sent over really paints this picture of Bitcoin as like the Wild West, you know?
Surely.
You have these big players moving in, but there are also these huge hurdles, like figuring out how to handle more transactions. And like, what about the environmental impact of all that mining? It uses a ton of energy.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting, because that's where the whole question of regulation comes in. Governments are kind of scrambling to figure out what to do with Bitcoin. Some see it as a threat, but others see it as this huge opportunity.
And that could be make or break for Bitcoin, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, imagine strict rules just stifling its growth. Or, on the other hand, what if clear regulations actually boost confidence? It's a tightrope walk for sure.
It really is. And your source material highlighted this tension perfectly. Regulation could either strangle Bitcoin or it could become this catalyst for wider adoption. It's fascinating.
Yeah, you're right.
And then there's the tech side of things too, right?
Correct.
Can they solve the scaling problem? Can they make mining more sustainable? These are make or break questions.
Totally. And I have to say, the whole digital gold thing people keep talking about, it starts to sound really interesting if they can figure all this out. But then again, Bitcoin has been on this roller coaster ride.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, how does that sit into this whole idea of it being a stable investment?
Right. And that is the million-dollar question. Can Bitcoin shake off its speculative reputation and actually become a reliable store of value like digital gold?
Yeah.
Or will it be overtaken by something else? Like, what about government-backed digital currencies? These are big questions, and honestly, they'll shape the future of how we think about money.
It's crazy to think about.
It really is.
I mean, imagine a world where Bitcoin disrupts everything. Or, flip the script.
Yeah.
What if it ends up being this niche thing for, like, techies? That's quite a range of possibilities.
We got a lot to unpack here. So, digital gold. It's a catchy phrase, but like, what does it actually even mean? Is Bitcoin really a good store of value?
Well, that's a question that has even the most seasoned investors scratching their heads, right?
Yeah.
See, gold has held its value for centuries.
Right.
It's tangible, it's scarce, and people just trust it. Bitcoin shares some of those qualities, like scarcity that's built into its code.
Right.
But its price is notoriously volatile. Yet, that's an understatement. It's been on a wild ride.
Totally.
One day it's soaring, the next it's plummeting. So how can something so unpredictable be a store of value?
You've hit the nail on the head. That's the core of the debate, right?
Yeah.
The material you sent over, it highlighted how some analysts believe Bitcoin's volatility, it'll decrease over time.
Okay.
As it matures, as more institutions start investing in it, they argue it's still early days, right? And comparing it to those early days of the internet, it's apt.
Oh, I see what they're saying.
Exactly.
Like, think about how much tech stocks fluctuated back then.
Exactly. The dot-com bubble and all of that.
Exactly. But look, the internet, it did transform everything. So are they suggesting Bitcoin could have that same kind of impact?
Some experts believe it could be even bigger, honestly.
Wow.
One of your articles talked about how Bitcoin could revolutionize international payments, especially for people in countries with, unstable currencies.
Right.
Right now, sending money across borders, it can be a nightmare. It's slow, it's expensive, and you're subject to all these fees.
For sure.
Bitcoin, it has the potential to completely streamline that whole process.
So instead of Western Union, it's Bitcoin.
Exactly.
For remittances and stuff.
Potentially.
That's wild. Okay,
Yeah.
so what about everyday transactions? Like, are we going to be buying our coffee with Bitcoin anytime soon?
Well, that's where things get really, really interesting, because while some people are picturing a world where Bitcoin replaces traditional currencies altogether, others believe its real potential lies in its underlying technology, the blockchain.
Okay, so back up for a second. We're talking about blockchain in terms of recording transactions, but what else can it do?
Imagine a digital ledger, right? But this ledger, it can track anything of value.
Okay.
Not just money.
Right.
Property titles, medical records, supply chains, you name it. That's the power of blockchain.
So it's like this super secure, tamper-proof way to keep records of things.
Exactly. And because it's decentralized, it's not controlled by any single entity.
Right.
Not a bank, not a government.
Right.
And that has huge implications. I mean, huge. We're talking transparency and security on a whole new level.
It sounds like blockchain technology could really be a game changer, even beyond just Bitcoin.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, your source material even touched upon how some governments and central banks, they're exploring using blockchain technology for their own digital currencies,
Oh.
central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs.
So wait, hold on. So we've got Bitcoin, this decentralized independent currency, and then you're saying governments are thinking about launching their own digital currencies using similar technology. So how do those two things even coexist?
That's a great question, and honestly, $1 million question. Some experts believe CBDCs could actually be good for Bitcoin, that it might legitimize digital currencies in the eyes of the public.
I could see that.
Others worry that governments might use CBDCs to control spending or monitor transactions in ways that they couldn't do with physical cash.
It's like these two competing visions, right?
Certainly.
For the future of money. One's totally decentralized and the other one's totally centralized. It's a trip. But it's not just about the tech, is it? There's a whole philosophical side to Bitcoin, too.
100%. Your source material, it really highlighted how Bitcoin, for a lot of people, it's about more than just money.
Yeah.
It's about freedom. It's about individual sovereignty. It's about opting out of these traditional systems. For a lot of Bitcoin enthusiasts, it's a statement, you know? It's about putting power back into the hands of individuals.
That's a powerful idea, for sure. But it also sounds a little idealistic, maybe. I mean, can a system like Bitcoin, which is decentralized, really work on a large scale? Or will it always be this niche kind of movement?
That is the big unknown, isn't it? It's a social experiment as much as it is a technological one.
It's a lot to think about, for
Right.
sure. And, we've talked about the potential upsides, right? Faster payments, more financial inclusion. We even talked about a whole new way of thinking about money.
Yeah.
But what about the downsides? I mean, the stuff you shared, it mentioned some risks too, right? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's got to be a flip side.
Right, and it's really important that we consider those. So one concern that comes up a lot is the potential for, well, illicit activities.
Yeah, I can see that.
Bitcoin's anonymity, which is really appealing to privacy advocates, it's also made it kind of attractive for money laundering and, illegal transactions on the dark web and things like that.
That's double-edged sword.
It really is. And then there's the issue of volatility, which we already talked about a bit. Bitcoin's price swings, they can be extreme.
Yeah, no kidding.
And that makes it a risky investment, especially for people who are new to it or maybe don't fully grasp just how volatile it can be.
Right, it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But here's another thing. What happens if something goes wrong? Like with traditional banking, you've got deposit insurance, regulatory bodies, all of that. What about Bitcoin? Is there a safety net?
That's a really important point, and it's a key difference. Bitcoin, it's decentralized, right?
Yeah,
So there's
right.
no central authority to bail you out if something goes wrong. You lose your Bitcoin wallet password. You fall victim to a scam, that money's gone.
Wow.
And if, God forbid, there's ever a major security flaw discovered in the Bitcoin network itself, that could be catastrophic.
Yeah. So it sounds like alongside all these potential rewards, there are some very real risks too.
Absolutely. And that's why it's just crucial, absolutely crucial, to approach Bitcoin with a critical eye.
Yeah.
Do your research.
Yeah.
Understand both the potential and the pitfalls,
That's a lot. After this deep dive, honestly, it feels almost impossible to say for sure what's going to happen. Will it revolutionize finance? Will it just fade away? What do you think?
Well, if one thing's for certain, it's that Bitcoin's future is anything but certain. It could go either way. Its success or failure, it all hinges on this complex interplay of factors. You've got technological advancements, government regulations, public perception, even global events,
It's wild.
It is. It's this fascinating case study, really, in disruption and innovation and in this, constantly evolving relationship between technology and society.
It really makes you think this one technology, this one idea could totally reshape, everything or it could just fizzle out.
Exactly. And, for you listening out there, the real question isn't just about Bitcoin's future, but about what role you want to play in all of this. Will you be an observer? Will you be an adopter? Or maybe even an innovator in this space? That's something to really consider as we navigate this wild, unpredictable digital frontier.
It's definitely given us a lot to think about. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for taking this deep dive with us into the world of Bitcoin.